Hello guys and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This has been a while. Anyhow, I'm back now and you can expect a lot more tutorials to come. I've got a lot in store for you guys, so just stay tuned, stay in touch, stay subscribed to this channel because you are going to be getting a lot of education coming your way. A lot of tutorials and a lot more stuff which you will see for yourself. So just stay tuned and let us get started with today's tutorial. Okay guys, so for today's thumbnail tutorial, we are going to be creating an Ali Abdaal inspired thumbnail. Now if you see on screen here, you can see that there is a graph in the background alongside 10k per month. Now this is a very popular sort of thumbnail in the finance niche. A lot of people are using bar graphs, charts, and a lot of stuff like that in order to catch people's eye. So again, we are going to be creating this thumbnail today, and I will be doing a lot more tutorials in the finance niche in the coming weeks. So just stay tuned. Okay, so let's begin. So let's open up a new file and let us create a new document. So 1920 by 1080p. We're going to keep the resolution to 300 and keep the bits to 16 with the background being white, and click create. So here I have an image of a subject which I found on Freepik, and I will link this in the description down below for you guys. And the first step we are going to do is we are going to resize this image to fit the screen better. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's first create a smart object. So right click and then convert to smart object, and that just enables us to maintain some of the quality when we are resizing the image. So now let's go ahead and resize. So Command or Control T, and then we are going to resize this to fit on the screen better. So we want it to be in a central area, and we want this to be relatively large so it actually catches the eye of the viewer. So something like this should be fine. Then we're going to press enter like so. I'm just going to quickly resize this a little bit more because I really want it to stand out on the screen. So let us just do that. I want it to be really big on the screen. So something like that is looking much better. So this is the central figure like that. And we just want to center this on the screen like so. And we also want to make a little rotation. As we can see, it's on a bit of an angle. So something like that should be perfect. Okay, so now we have to remove the background, which we haven't yet removed. So let us right click on the subject layer and we are going to rasterize the layer. So click rasterize layer, and we are going to now go ahead and use the magic wand tool and select the background like so, so that the background is selected, and then click mask. Now because we selected the background, what we have to do is we have to invert this mask. So let us press Command or Control I, and that will now make the subject visible. Okay, so let's add some quality back into the image. As you can see through resizing, it's become a little bit blurry, the image. So we are going to remedy that right now. Let's first go ahead and make a duplicate of this layer, and we are going to name it backup because it's always good to have a backup. And we are now going to work on the top layer. So let us first go ahead and click on filter, convert for smart filters, and then we are going to click on filter and camera raw filter. Okay, now we are going to ignore the background because that will not be visible in the actual thumbnail. So let's just focus on the subject. So let's go to effects, and we are going to increase the texture to about 35, and then we are also going to increase the clarity to about 20, like so. We can leave all the options relatively similar, so let's just increase the exposure a little bit, increase the contrast, and that should be more than enough. Now click OK. Now as you can see, we've got a bit more definition back into the image. Okay, so time to add a background. So here I have an image which I found on Freepik, and I will link this in the description down below for you guys as well. And I'm just going to drag this into my main document, and I'm going to place this below the subject like so. From here we are going to focus on removing some of the detail from the image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the image selected, and I'm going to go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and we're just going to remove some of the detail from this image. 8 should be fine, and click OK. What we are now going to do is we are going to change the color of the background. So let us go ahead to adjustment layers, and we are going to click hue and saturation, and we are going to add a clipping mask by holding down the option key and clicking in between the two layers. And we are going to click like so, and we are now going to toggle with the sliders in order to change the color. So let's first click colorize, and we are going to adjust the sliders like so. So I want it to be quite a green slash bluish tint. So that's what I'm going for here. So I'm just going to keep toggling until I get the desired result. So saturation, maybe a little bit more darkness. That's looking good. And again, these things you can always adjust at the end. So don't spend too much time on this right now. Just for the sake of the tutorial, I'm going to quickly try and do this. Otherwise, I'd be here toggling all day long. So let's just do this quickly. Something like this looks absolutely fine. Now, what I will do now is I'm going to change the shirt of the subject because I don't really like how it merges in with the background. So I want it to be much more of a similar color to the background, maybe a little bit more darker. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So what I'm going to first do is make a selection of the actual t-shirt. So let's use the quick selection tool. So I'm going to click on the quick selection tool like so, and I'm going to click on the subject layer, and I'm just going to drag over the places I want the selection to be. Now it's not going to be completely accurate, but you can always adjust it afterwards. So let's just try and make a selection of the shirt. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit more and see where it needs to be adjusted. So as you can see right here, it's got some of the neck. So we are going to hold down the Alt or Option key, and we are now going to click in order to do the inverse, which takes away the selection like so. I think this is pretty good for now. I'm going to refine it afterwards, but for now let's just do this pretty quickly. So something like this should be fine. As you can see, the shirt is selected. So now when we have all the selection done, we will now go ahead and click on the adjustment layers and hue and saturation like so. And from here we can adjust the colors as we please. So let us go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to make the adjustments and get back with you in a second. So as you can see, I've just adjusted the colors to be a little bit darker than the background, but it looks really good like that. Now, as you can see, there are some fringes, some white fringes on the outlines of the shirt, and we are going to fix that right now. So let's just zoom in. Now, as you can see, we have a layer mask here, and we're going to use this in order to remedy the situation. So let's have our layer mask selected, and then with the brush tool, we are going to have the white color selected, and we are now just going to paint over the edges. Now make sure you have your clipping mask attached to the subject layer. And as you can see, we can now just paint in over the white lines like so. So just paint over the white lines, and you can decrease the brush size if you want to be more accurate. So let's increase it now because we can just get a larger space. So that's how you remove white fringes. Now, as you can see, the buttons, we need to take the color out of the buttons. So let us now have the inverse. So we are going to switch to the black color, and we are going to paint over the buttons to bring back the white color. So we are getting our button color back like so. And now if we zoom out, we can see we've just changed the color of the shirt from this to this. So the next thing will be to add in the graph. So what I'm first going to do is create the line, the main line for the graph. So have the pen tool selected, press P for the shortcut, and let's just focus on the settings here. So you want to have it set to shape. You want the fill to be empty, and you want the stroke to be a green color. Any green color for now. I will change that in a moment, and I will give you the hex code for that. Just keep it to any green color for now, and just set the pixels to 18 pixels for the stroke. So let's first just now create some anchor points. So let's start off here. Maybe we go in a downwards motion like so, and then like this. Then we can go up. Something like this for now. And again, at this point, you could always adjust the anchor points by having the direct selection tool selected. So press A for the direct selection tool, and then you can just adjust each anchor point to where you want it to be. If you want to add anchor points, you can just press the pen tool again, and you can just hover over the line, as you can see right here, and you can see a plus icon appears, and that just allows you to add another anchor point. So just make this as it is right now, and then you can adjust it afterwards. Okay, and now let's just quickly adjust the color. So I'm just going to adjust the color to something which is more of a bluish green. So let me try this. Maybe that's too blue. Let's just make it a little bit darker. Something like this looks good. So I'll give you the hex code for that, guys, and I'll show it up on screen for you. So that is this hex code, and I'll have it on screen somewhere down here. Okay, so let's click OK. And now let's just focus on adjusting these anchor points. So I'm just going to quickly adjust these anchor points, and I'll be back with you in a moment. As you can see, guys, I've now adjusted the anchor points to my liking. This can take a while, but just do it to what you feel looks the best. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to bring this line underneath the subject layer so that the line is behind the subject. We will now add circles to both ends of the line. So let us click on the ellipse tool. Let's just create a new layer as well. And then with the ellipse tool, make sure that the stroke is set to none. So you want no stroke, and let us select a color. So I'm just going to paste in the green that we are using. So that's the color of the green. And then we are just going to zoom in. So I'm just going to quickly zoom in right here. And then with the shift tool, just hold it down and create a circle to something like this size. And then just drag it to the end of the line, like so. Now you can resize this. This looks pretty good. I might just make it a little bit smaller. Something like that. Yeah, that looks pretty fine to me. Then what you can do is you can hold down Alt, and you can click on the circle, and you can create a duplicate, and you can drag it to the end of the other line, like so. Okay, so now it's time to go ahead and create the glow effect, which is underneath the line. So what we will do first of all is I am going to use the marquee tool in order to achieve this. So what we can do is I will just start from the highest point of the circle, so somewhere like there, and I will just drag and create a rectangle like so. Okay, so what we are going to do now is I'm just going to go to adjustment layer and click solid color like so, and I'm going to create the same color of the actual line. So that's that. So press OK, and then from here we can adjust by pressing Command or Control T to adjust the size of it. And I'm just going to lower the opacity like so. So basically what we want is for the glow effect to be within this sort of line that you can see here. So we need to eliminate anything which is above the line that you can see on screen. So what we will do is we're just going to keep the opacity low so that we have a visual of where we need to make our selection. So have the pen tool selected, and we are now going to make our selection. So with the pen tool selected, we just want to make a selection with a path, not a shape, with just a path that goes within the line that we have on screen. So we just follow alongside the line, making sure that we are within the line with each anchor point that we place, like so. And then we're just going to make a complete selection. So join the two anchor points like so, press Command and Enter for the shortcut for selections. And then with the layer mask, we are going to conceal the above portion of the selection. So what we will do first is we need to rasterize the layer. So let's just right click on the green color fill and rasterize the layer so that we can actually edit it. And then from there, we need to invert the selection because we want to remove this part of the selection. We have highlighted this area, and so for us to be able to edit this part, we just press Command or Control, Shift and I, and now we have a selection which is only focusing on the top part. From here, with the layer mask selected, you can now go in with a brush and make sure that your color is set to black, and you can now paint this out like so. And then press Command or Control D to deselect. And as you can see right now, we have a glow effect which is only applied within the line. Now we're going to make this even more of a glowy effect, so don't worry about that. But for now, let's just see this. Okay, as you can see, we need to bring this below the subject. So we are going to do that as well, like so. So as you can see guys, the thumbnail is now starting to come together. What we now need to do is we need to add in the grid texture within the color fill. So we will do that right now. Here I have my grid texture, and I'm just going to take this into my document, and I'm just going to place it right at the top like so. So what we are going to do first of all is I'm just going to decrease the opacity of this so that you can see what I'm doing and what I'm actually planning to do here. So I'm going to now press Command or Control T in order to resize this to be a little bit smaller because it's too big, the squares, right? So we're just going to decrease this until I am happy with how the squares look on screen. So something like this should be fine. Now we need this to fill all of the green glow parts, so we need to press Option and then Shift and then just drag, because we want to make a duplicate of this layer. So we'll just do that like so. That should be fine. And then again we'll just do the same thing one more time. So Option and hold, and we are going to place it in line with the image like so. If it overlaps ever so slightly, don't worry, it won't be visible in the thumbnail. And even if it is visible, we can fix that afterwards, so don't worry about that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to merge all of these layers together. So I'm going to press the first layer and then just click on the final duplicate, and I'm going to press Command or Control E to merge all the layers into one. And then I will just create a duplicate again. So I'm going to hold Option or Alt, and then I'm going to press Shift whilst holding down. And then I'm going to just drag it upwards like so. Now I'm going to merge this one more time. So I'm just going to press Shift, hold on to it, and then press Command or Control E to merge all of it together. And now we have our grid texture, which is covering everything you see on screen. Now again, like we did previously, we only want the grid texture to be visible within the glowy parts, and so we will use a layer mask in order to do this. So first, before I do that, I'm just going to rename this grid texture so I can remember where it is. Okay, that's perfect. And what I will now do is I am going to press Control or Command, and I'm going to click on the layer mask of the color fill like so. And this is going to bring back our selection, which allowed us to only focus within this area. So now I'm going to again invert this mask, so Command or Control, Shift and I, and we can now delete all of the things around our selection. So what we can do now is have our layer mask. So click on the layer mask and make one, and then just invert this layer mask like so. And then we will go ahead and grab the grid texture and we will drag it underneath the line. So underneath the line here, and that just stops it from overlapping with the line. Let's now, with the grid texture selected, go ahead and invert this layer. So click on the actual layer, not the layer mask, and invert it. So Command or Control I, and that will change the color of the grid lines to a white color. So what we can do now is we can merge all the layers underneath the line. So with the glow and the grid lines, we can just merge them together. So we are going to click on the color fill, and we are also going to click on the grid texture. So press Command or Control and then click on the grid texture and then press Command or Control E. Now what you need to do is you just need to drag this again below the line like so. Then we can change the blending mode to screen. So now we are going to focus on softening the edges of this merged layer. So what we can do is we will create a layer mask, and then with the black color selected, we are going to slowly and very carefully paint over the edges of this glowy effect. So just paint over, keep your brush size relatively small, and we're just going to soften the edges as you see here. So you can always undo it if it doesn't look perfect the first time. You can always just use the opposite color on the layer mask. So if we are painting in with black now, we can paint it with white and it can bring back certain parts. So again, I'm just going to bring back a bit of this here because it doesn't look good. And again, you can just keep doing it until you get something which looks good. So I'm just going to keep toggling between them two. I just want to get rid of the edges on screen. And then let's just do it at the bottom as well here. Okay, we're going to hold down Shift after clicking, and we are just going to do that. So that looks good to me, pretty good. So now we're going to go ahead and add a glow effect to the line. So let us start off with the line. So this is our line, it's called shape 1. Let me just change that to line, would probably be a bit useful. Okay, so let's just change this to line. Okay, and then with the ellipses, we are going to add a glow effect to those as well. So let's start off with the line. So double click on the line and click on outer glow. And we are going to keep and maintain the same color, but we are just going to toggle with the settings on screen. So let me just play around with these real quick till I get something which looks awesome, because that's what we're striving for, guys. So that looks pretty good to me. Let's also go ahead and do the exact same thing to the ellipses. So what we can do is just double click and click on outer glow, and it should maintain the same settings since you've already just done it. So just do that again, like so. So here we have a glow effect on our line. Okay guys, so it's coming together. We're slowly getting near the final result. Now if you're still here, I just want to commend you because you clearly are interested in thumbnail design, and I can tell because this is a hefty design. There's a lot of steps in this one, and so if you're still here, I mean, I applaud you for your dedication. Let's get back to the thumbnail. Okay, so I think I'm going to add a little bit of a glow effect to the subject. So what I will do is I'll create a layer below the subject layer, and I would add with the brush tool selected. I am going to first go ahead and press Alt or Option and get this as a sample color, and then I will, with a soft rounded brush, and we'll put the flow to about 60. I'm just going to lightly tap behind the subject like so. So decrease the brush size when you get near the smaller parts. I'm just going to create a little glow outside of the subject like so. And then we can probably decrease the opacity of this to about 50%. Again, I just want this to be subtle. I don't want this to be overpowering at all, just subtle, and it just adds a nice effect to the background. Okay, what we will do now is we will move on to the text. So now with the type tool, I'm just going to press T for the shortcut, and I am going to type in 10K. So let's click dollar and then 10K like so. Make sure it's in caps, and I'm just going to resize this to be seen better on screen, and I'm going to change the color of this text as well. So let me just quickly do that. Change the color of the text to white, and this text font is not it. We are going to change it to Proxima Nova, and we are going to change it to, let's say, extra bold italic. Perfect, that looks really good. So let's keep this one, and we are just going to resize it to fit better on screen. So something like this should be fine. And again, you know, you can keep toggling with the sizes until you are happy with the final result. So I'm just going to quickly toggle with this and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is the perfect size for my liking. Now I've also added in a forward slash because I think it looks better once you add the text on the other side. So let's just keep that here. We're now going to duplicate this text layer by holding down the Option key and also holding down Shift so it stays on the same line. And we will now hop with the type tool, hover over it and change the text to month in lowercase like so. Press escape, and then we will bring this below the subject so that it's not overlapping. And then we're just going to drag it a little bit lower like this. We might even resize this a little bit smaller like this. It's looking pretty good. I might actually bring it out a little bit more. We'll resize it even more so that there is an even amount of negative space on both ends here. I'm paying attention to the details, guys. Okay, so that's looking pretty good to me. Okay, let's add some glows to the text. So I'm going to start off with the 10K. Let us just click on that layer, and we are going to double click, and then we are going to click on gradient overlay. So ignore this gradient. It's a gradient from an old thing I was doing. Doesn't look anything like what I want it to look like. Okay, so we're going to have it white at the bottom. No, actually, we are going to have it white over here, and we are going to have the green from our line we are going to take the same green shade and we are going to use it over here. Now I want this green to be showing a little bit more in the text. So I'm going to actually click on the gradient and I'm just going to drag this slider ever so slightly more to the middle so that we get a lot of the green in our text. Maybe a little bit less. Something like this should be fine. So let's just do the same with the month. I am going to actually right click and then copy layer style and then right click on the month layer and just do the same thing. So I'm going to paste the layer style, if I can find it, paste layer style like so. And there we have it. Now, because this text is a little bit smaller, we will need to adjust the gradient slider for this one. So we are just going to bring it down ever so slightly so that it's not so overpowering on this text. Something like that looks perfect. Okay, as you can see, it's looking really good. Now we're not done yet. Let's also go ahead and add some glow. So I'm going to click on 10K and I'm going to click on outer glow and I'm just going to have a white glow, which is very subtle, so barely visible, but it's definitely there. So something like this should be fine. And again, if you would like to emulate the exact same result I'm having, just follow along and copy the exact same settings I have on screen. Just pause the video. So this is looking good to me, and I just want to do the same thing for this one. So if I just double click on month and click outer glow, just click white and just change the settings so that it's pretty much exactly the same as this one. So that's good, like that. So for this text, I'm also going to be adding in a glow underneath the text. So let us create a new layer. And I'm just going to drag this below both text layers like so. From here, I'm going to have the brush tool selected and I'm going to keep the same options here. So, you know, keep it to 60. And then make sure that you have the green selected from the actual line color. And then I'm just going to very subtly paint below it like this. And don't worry if it looks overpowering now. We are going to decrease the opacity of this. And so we just want to keep it to about 10% like that. Just adds a bit of a glow. Okay. Okay guys, so we're nearly done. All that's left to do is just add some rim lights onto the subject and then a final camera raw filter. So let's add some rim lights to our subject here. So I'm just going to select our top layer and I'm just going to create a solid color adjustment layer on top of that, like so. We're going to keep the green the same shade as the line, and then I'm going to click OK. And then from here, we are going to create a clipping mask. So click in between the two layers and hold down Alt or Option and click like so. That's just going to add a clipping mask to our subject layer. What we can do from here is we go to the blending modes and we will change it to screen like so. What we do now is we will invert this layer mask, so Command or Control I, so that we cannot see anything because it's black. And then we will go ahead with our paintbrush tool selected, which is B for the shortcut for that, and then we will go ahead and with the white color selected and setting our flow to about 50%. So slowly paint on the edges of our subject. And what this does is it just adds a realistic effect to our thumbnail. So obviously this being a glowy effect in the background, you would expect some of the light to be shining on the subject. And so this just helps to create that effect. So just paint over the edges like so. And as you can see, it makes a massive difference. So that's great. Okay, we can do some on the edge of his face, maybe on his ears as well, like this. Maybe get some on his hair, like so. And that's looking really good to me. So I'm just going to quickly fine tune one thing. So I don't like the sort of color of the grid. So I'm just going to go to our layer, which has this, and I will just change the blending mode back to normal. That's the only adjustment I'm going to make. Okay, now time for our camera raw filter. So just have the top layer selected and then press Command, Option, Shift and E, and that's the shortcut to merge all the layers within our layer section into one layer. And then from here we are going to go to Filter, Convert for Smart Filters, click OK, and then filter, camera, raw filter, and let's do some adjustments now. Okay, so let's start off in light. So let's bring down the exposure a little bit, minus 0.25, increase the contrast, increase the highlights slightly, decrease the shadows, that's looking good, decrease the blacks a little bit more. Okay, maybe we'll increase the shadows a little bit more, open them up. Okay, moving on to color, let's just toggle with these sliders. So again, we can adjust the temperature a little bit and it gives a different tint, but I'm going to just toggle about with these settings and see if there's anything I like. If not, I'm not going to change anything. Vibrance, there's already a lot of saturation and vibrance with these colors, so I don't want to work with this too much. What I really want to go to is calibration, and I want to adjust the color of this green. So we are going to sort of bring it more to a bluish tint like this. That looks much better in my honest opinion. I'm just going to increase the saturation maybe a little bit. That looks much better, perfect. Okay, maybe we can even take it a little bit more. Okay, no complaints whatsoever. Okay, that's looking pretty good right there. Okay, and now we can go to details, maybe increase the sharpening to 30, and then we can also go to effects and then have a vignette. So I want to add a vignette to this one just because it looks good when you add it to colors which are quite bright. If you add a vignette, it sort of brings the central focus to the subject and what's going on the screen, as opposed to just having a flat image. So we can increase the grain as well, put that to 12. We are also going to have a look at what else we can change, so let's keep going. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Okay, so I don't like how this shade of green is not matching with this shade of green, so I'm going to adjust that. So we are going to go to blue primary, and I'm just going to adjust the hue and try and match it so that it matches with the text. So that's perfect. As you can see, it's matching with the text. Now this whole picture has gone red, so we are going to adjust that back to normal and just decrease the saturation of the actual person here. I don't know what happened there, but let's just sort of color grade this so that it's adjusted. Or actually, what we can do is we can leave the settings as is right now, click OK, and we can just take off the redness from this. So we have a layer mask here that we can work with. So I'm just going to click on the layer mask, and I am going to have the black color selected, and I'm just going to paint over the face so that it removes the color from the subject. Okay, because we don't want it to look like he's sunburnt, and that's looking really good like that. Then I will just create a hue and saturation layer, and I will just increase the saturation so that we bring back some color into the face, and that is the thumbnail done. Okay guys, so here is the final product, and like I said before, if you've made it this far, I do commend your seriousness about learning thumbnail design. If you want to see more tutorials like this one, just make sure to subscribe to my channel because I have a lot more in store for you guys. I've only just begun. So I'll see you in the next video guys. Until then, peace.